And hello, everybody. It is Tuesday at 7 p.m. Sorry, we're having a little bit of computer glitches. They've changed Zoom in the last couple of weeks since I've been gone. So I apologize for not being able to meet with you for the last couple of weeks. But Mark and I are in the process of moving. So it's been a long journey of I spent all day painting today, and that's been an interesting process because it really, I'm high, I think, after smelling paint fumes for the last like 10 hours of in a closed room. But it just took a long journey. Went from Florida. When I left here, it was 84 degrees. When I got to Ohio, it was 4. So it was quite of a change for me in a short period of time, but got there and got back in good order and safely. So I'm very appreciative to everybody who said prayers for me for my trip. So I appreciate it very much. We've changed locations even in the house, so the lighting's different. I'm kind of getting used to where we are now in the house. When I move up to my new location, we'll have a green screen. I'll show you a little bit more about what's going on there. But for the moment, I kind of wanted to just welcome you all again to Spirit Focus with Robert Painley. It's been a long road, almost. It's hard to believe it's been a year since we started Spirit Focus with Spirit Focus with Robert Painley when we did this show, but that was after some ghost stories that we did for about 10, 12 weeks, right at the beginning of the pandemic. And I missed that show because I really enjoyed talking about some of the hauntings that I used to do back in the day and get those experiences and talk about some of the things that I did at that time. So today I wanted to talk a little bit more about the different hauntings that I have done recently. And some of those hauntings I did professionally, some of them not so much. They were just because I happened to be at a particular place and these souls needed some guidance. So, or people here on this plane needed some guidance. And I just did what I had to do, which is what all light workers, what we're all called to do. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about that. Before I do, one other thing, good friend of mine, Rosie Shapiro from TLC's Angels Among Us, is going to be in Florida, and she's going to be here kind of the middle to the end of the month. And if you have a haunting or want a house blessing or cleansing of your home, please let me know if you're in the Fort Lauderdale, Miami, West Palm Beach area, and let me know. Contact me. You can reach me at Robert Painley at spirit-focus.com or rapainley@gmail.com, and we can discuss what you need and that sort of thing. Happy to do it, and I love working with Rosie. She's just amazing, and her energy is fantastic. And it's amazing when you work with another medium, how that energy just flows so differently. If any of you caught our Zoom broadcast together, you know that energy that is just generated, and it's easy to feed off that energy, and it just increases the amount of energy in the room and in the connection with spirit. And it was just something that I found fascinating in working with Rosie now several times. And I look forward to working with her again down here in South Florida very, very soon. So if you have any, so just so you know, that would be, we're talking about March 2021, because I don't know when you're going to catch the show. So I thought I'd mention that. So that's when Rosie will be here. And we'll be working together again for doing some house cleansings and hauntings or house blessings together while she's here in town. So I look forward to it. And if you're out there, Rosie, look forward to seeing you and have safe travels when you come down. Now, on to everything else for the show. I did want to talk about my trip because the trip is fascinating. I've talked a lot on this channel about things that I do. And one of the things that I really enjoy doing when I do travel is staying at bed and breakfast. So with the B&Bs that I've stayed at, sometimes they're very old B&Bs and they require, some kind of patience, I think, when I go to them, because I do sense spirit almost any place I go. It could be the supermarket, it could be a parking lot, could be any place else. Here in this house quite a bit. So it doesn't have a time or place. It's just where I happen to be and where I happen to encounter spirit that I do sometimes have to work with that energy. So I did want to talk a little bit about my trip, because I thought it was fascinating that I encountered so many souls on this trip. And as I was talking to Rosie the other day, and one of the things that has been strange for the last week is the amount of animals that have been coming to me in spirit, cats, dogs, and that's about it. But also in for living animals coming out and about, the amount of snakes and things that have been coming out and showing themselves and just kind of hanging out with me has been interesting. And I love that energy. I love animal energy. It's fantastic energy. And I'm always privileged to work with it or channel that energy to sometimes to help the animal itself. Sometimes they let me know that there's a problem. Sometimes they just let me know that they're around. And sometimes they're being guided to give me messages. And that's how I work with spirits sometimes, particularly in the animal kingdom. So well, let's see. One of the things that I think there was a huge storm that came across the country in middle of, I guess it was February. I'm losing track of time moving here. So in the middle of February, there was a huge storm system that went across the states and dumped a ton of snow, and the temperatures dropped significantly. That was, again, that 80-degree difference that they're moving from Florida to Ohio in 3 days. That was a huge temperature drop. And one of the things that I wanted to talk about was that trip on the way was really amazing, because a lot of times when I am nervous, or my energy is completely focused on a task at hand, it pushes spirit to the background. Sometimes it's really got to be a strong energy for me to pay attention to it when I'm in some of those circumstances. So it was really kind of interesting to me that my first day traveling, I went to a town. So I'm going to be a little nebulous here, because I don't want to, since I didn't clear it with these bed and breakfasts and things, to talk about them. I would rather not mention them by name. At this juncture, if you have a question, let me know. I'll let you know where it was. But publicly, I don't want to do that unless they gave me permission to do so. So one of the things that the first place that I stayed was in a small town just south of Gainesville. And it is a beautiful bed and breakfast. I mean, the house was amazing. It's 3 stories. It's been there since, I think, the 1870s or something, in a very small town. And it was just beautiful. And I rolled in there at night, and it was probably about 30-degree difference just going to Gainesville from Fort Lauderdale. And the energy in the house was quite something walking in there. Excuse me. To say that the energy was palpable is kind of an understatement, because there was so much energy there. A lot of times I'll go to a place and there's maybe 1 spirit, 2 spirits or something. There was a whole lot of energy. That happens in hotels, that happens in bed and breakfast, that happens in places where people congregate a lot, because if you have a lot of people staying at a location, you're going to encounter a lot of residual energy, sometimes spirit energy, sometimes spirit energy that is with the people that are visiting, sometimes the employees that are there. So it can be a lot of energy in some of these homes, and this was no exception. The thing that with this energy was, for the most part, it was pretty good for the amount of spirit activity that was going on in this house. I felt comfortable there to an extent. So I don't know how many of you go to bed and breakfast regularly, but usually, once you check in, a lot of times you'll get walked to your room, and they'll show you around and give you the amenities and let you know what time breakfast is served and what time you want it, and that sort of thing. And so the young lady at reception took me to the 3rd floor where she said my room was. As I was walking up the stairs, you could feel the energy get more and more developed as I was walking up the stairway. And then when I got to the top of the stairs, the room was right at the top. And she opened the door, and I said, I can't stay here. can't stay here in this room. The energy in here is horrible. And she said, what do you mean? I said, in this room, there is a fake wall. And it's with this fake wall, they're already showing me that they are going to, where that fake wall exists, they're going to rattle a door all night and I won't get any sleep. So I can't be in this room. She goes, what do you mean? I'm a medium. This is what I do. And I sense this energy. And this energy in particular is energy in the attic here. And this energy goes to the attic. This fake door is not going to put a stop to what I'm going to sense and feel in this home this evening. So she said, she kind of smiled. She said, everybody that we book into this room has a bad feeling with the energy here. And I said, I will let you know a little bit more about this energy but I can't stay here. And I said, it's behind this door. And I kind of pointed off to the right-hand side. And I opened up the door, walked over to it, opened up the door. And sure enough, on the right-hand side of this closet, there's a little hook there. And I took the hook off and tried to open the door and it pushed right open. It was a thin piece of plywood, but it was a door going into the attic. And knew it sight unseen. You could feel the energy. You could feel what was going to happen in this room. And it wasn't going to be nice. It wasn't going to be fun for me anyway. I just said, let's move. So she said, there's an open room on the second floor. Let's take you there. I said, great. So we walked downstairs. And as we walked downstairs, we got down to the bottom of the stairs and my room was going to be the first one on the left, the oak room, I think it was. And as she went to go open the door, I looked down the end of the hallway and there was a lady standing in the doorway. And it took me a second to realize whether or not she was on this plane or not, but I could tell almost by the style of clothing that she was wearing that this was going to be an older soul that was stuck in this location. And I asked her if she didn't mind if I walked to the end of the hall. There might have been maybe 4 other doors along the corridor, and then this was at the exact end of the hall. And so I said, do you mind if we walk down this? She goes, no, I'm fascinated by this. And, I've sensed things here too in this house. So we walked down to the end of the hall. She flicked on the light. And it was a beautiful room. It was just really one of these rooms where you walked in and there was a clawfoot tub that was elevated on 2 steps up. And so you could have a wonderful, beautiful bath there and just kick back and enjoy with peace and serenity your evening. But while I was in there, I could see this lady and she was standing and as soon as I entered the room and walked around, she never broke her gaze from looking down the hallway. And there were 2, as I mentioned, there were 2 steps up to this tub that was there. And I just thought it was interesting because I could only basically see her from the knees up where she was standing. And then I said, this is not original to this house, correct? Because I'm seeing her standing on what would be the original flooring here because where the tub now is, this would not have been part of the original house. When she was here, she would be lower than, below this floor, this fake floor, that these fake 2 steps that went up for this, kind of perched tub that was there for show and prominence in the room. And she said, true, that wasn't there. The owners built that on there. It was an addition to this place probably about 20 years ago. And I said, this is a woman who's wearing a long gray or black dress and her hair is pulled back completely in a big bun right on the top of her head. And she was stern, I think would be a good way to get her personality. But she never broke her gaze from down the hallway and she didn't communicate with me. She just stood there. And the girl who was checking me in mentioned to me that when she started on her first day, she was walking and she too saw somebody in that room who fit that description, never saw them again and never talked about it. So we kind of stayed there and I told her, okay, this woman died of a cerebral hemorrhage. This is what happened to her, but there's no way to prove any of that. I said, look in the and anything else that has happened here, maybe who this woman was and the cause of death, but I'm getting cerebral hemorrhage from her and she probably died when she was in her 60s, late 50s, early 60s, I would say, by how I saw her. But then there were more. So as we turned around to walk back down the hall to go back into my room, there was a little girl who was there, probably I'd say 8, 9 years old. And she showed me herself in a couple of ways. She showed me herself in kind of a blue, kind of a straps on her shoulders, over a white blouse, kind of like a bluish dress. And then she would show me alternately in gray. And I said, so she's telling me that some people say that there's two ghosts here, ghost children of ghosts. And I was like, I don't believe so. I think that people just see her differently. So it's the same ghost, but just wearing this different outfit from time to time. Sometimes it's gray, sometimes it's blue. And she just looks a little different. So I think people mistake that there are two ghosts there as opposed to the one. And so as I started to talk to the woman the girl who was checking me in, she just mentioned to me that that people saw two girls that lived in this house and that haunted this house, and these were the ones that were seen most prevalently associated with the house. And I said that she watches you from the balcony out of the stairwell down at where your back is turned. She sees you, and she watches you. She's fascinated by your energy and how you work. And I told her very specifically that she knows everything about you. She hears your conversations. She's in your business a little bit. And she said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, she's telling me right now that you have your grandmother's. You have one that's passed and one that's alive, correct?" She said, "Yes." Her eyes got really big, and it kind of dawned on her that this little girl knew about her. And then the phone rang, and the one who was checking me in had to go back downstairs, but she was a little put off, a little scared, I think, of what I was telling her. I actually went downstairs later on that evening just to kind of talk to her and just let her know that everything was fine, her energy was great, that she doesn't need to be afraid of what is there. And lastly, I said, I did tell you about, if I give a specific name away, there's a legend about this man, apparently, that I'm unaware of. But when I went downstairs, I said, I'll just use the word caretaker, that took care of the property, a certain aspect of the property. And I said, so I'm trying to remember my words exactly to her. I just said the energy that I felt in that room, coming out of that room that's in the false wall in the attic, was this caretaker man. And this caretaker didn't have the world's greatest personality. Let's just say, while the one woman was stern, this guy, incredibly protective, I think would be a better term for him. He was very protective of the location, how things functioned in the home. He still had felt like ownership of the house, although he was never an owner. He was hired by the owners to be a caretaker of sorts on this property, and took his role very, very seriously, and was there for a very long time. And his energy was the one that needed to be worked with. And as soon as I got his energy, he started to pull back. He kind of knew that I sensed him, felt him, and he pulled his energy back so that I couldn't read more about what was trying to transpire. So that was it for the evening. I went to my new room, and I actually there was one of those tubs in my room. I took a nice long soak in the tub and enjoyed the evening. And I just kind of put out there at night that I don't want to be bothered by spirit tonight. I need a good sleep because I've been driving all day tomorrow with a huge truck with have half our belongings in them. And, so please, if you want to talk to me, happy to do it, but please come see me in the morning after I get a great night's sleep. The moment I said that, I turned around, started to walk toward the bed to do my prayers. And as I moved forward, this orange cat darted in front of me, and I tripped over it. I didn't want to step on it, so I kind of, stepped in a funky maneuver and fell onto the bed face first, and then looked, and there wasn't a cat there. It was a cat in spirit. Like I said, the last week or so, these animals have kind of presented themselves, but it was an orange tabby that just ran across the floor, and it was so real and so lifelike. I mentioned it to the girl, but she had no idea whose cat this may be. But it was strange that it was bright, not bright orange, but kind of that kind of like pumpkiny orange color, a rusty color, and it was amazing because it was so vivid and so there that it was a little disconcerting to not want to trip and fall over this animal because it was so lifelike, on this plane, lifelike. So that was kind of funny. And that's what sometimes happens to me, not only with animals. I mean, this happens to my house all the time, where I'll be walking around a corner and, I'll feel like there'll be a spirit standing there and I can't stop my forward momentum. And I either go through them, or I try to stop, or I cut myself short, and, kind of stumble a little bit, trying not to run into somebody, as you would if you're walking down a sidewalk and all of a sudden came very close to them. You try to stop and maneuver. That's what happens to me, because I can't tell whether they're real or in spirit until sometimes too late, because I'm expecting somebody to be in the hallway, and I'll go into a bedroom, or turn from the bedroom out into the hallway or something, and run into these spirits. And it's quite funny sometimes. Sometimes it's a little annoying, but for the most part, they're trying to get my attention, and I get it. I don't like that energy sometimes passing through me. Feels strange, and it's not the world's greatest feeling sometimes when that happens, particularly when you're not expecting it. And if I'm prepared for it and I know that's going to happen, that's a little bit different story. But anyway, that was just night number one of this trip. Oh, geez. I think it was, let me see how we're doing on time. I haven't even answered any questions yet. The second night of this trip, I was in Kentucky, and I stayed at another B&B on my way. And this one also had some interesting energy about it. There was nothing specific, I would say. There was, and the owner of the inn, she was actually selling the inn, and and they weren't really letting people stay there. But I think because I was by myself and I had called, and she allowed me to stay there for the night. And the atmosphere, I hate to say depressing, but you could feel that this woman who was running it, her husband had already moved out of the house and was living someplace else, and they were trying to sell it, and she was there just kind of taking care of it in the interim before they moved. And she had people around her that were good souls, but there were some energies associated with the house and the land that were going to make it a little challenging, I think, for anybody who would come to that house to get a very good feeling about it, because it didn't feel uplifting. And I asked her if she minded that I did a cleansing ceremony for the land, just to kind of help the land out a little bit, and make the home itself feel better for any prospective buyer. So that's what I did. I wouldn't say anything specific, but I will say that there was army, military energy surrounding the property. It was very, very close to a significant battle that happened during the Civil War. And I think that was some of the energy that was there. So some of that, I don't feel so much the encampment, but I actually felt death on the property itself, and unsettled death. And sometimes that doesn't mean that there's ghost energy per se there, because I don't really remember. I didn't see anything, but you could just feel the angst, it's hard to explain war energy. If you've never been to a battlefield as a medium, it's hard to explain what you feel, because you do get, the angst and the fright and the death and the wounding and all of those things that stay with the land. Sometimes, not all the times, but I would say most times. I don't think I've been to many Civil War, Revolutionary War, or even European War, World War II, World War I sites where I don't get energy of that magnitude. Even medieval energy when I go to some castles. Some of that energy is really horrible, horrifying, and horrible on occasion. But this particular home, this land, really had some issues with it, and um, so I did what I could, and I think it worked out very well in the end. And I let her know what I had done, when I got up for breakfast the next morning with the house, and she was just very appreciative that, and she gave me some insight after the fact of why it may have felt depressing, and some of that was familial, some of that was truly what happened in this town where I was staying, and I don't know honestly if I would go back because the energy in the town is that way. I don't know, and I'm going to just throw this out there, but if you're ever moving, I think, when you go to a house, you can get the sense or the feel of a home, of the energy of a home, whether it feels good to you or it doesn't feel good to you. I mean, you get that almost instinctively. Even meeting another person, you kind of instinctively know whether this is a good person or not. Sometimes we're wrong, and they may not be good people in our lives, but for the most part, most of us have a good sixth sense about people who come off in a positive way, or in a in a way that is ingratiating in some manner. And homes and buildings and land also have that same characteristic about it. And I think that we all have that sense. And I would like everybody who watches this show to really hone in on that and kind of develop that, because I think a lot of people make mistakes sometimes when they buy property. They look at the house with the aesthetic value of it, or they look at it because you like the kitchen in that home, and you don't pay attention to the energy in the space that you're going to be living. And sometimes the energy of the space in which you are going to be living is much more important than what the kitchen looks like. You can, buy a different house that has fantastic energy and change the kitchen. But it's very difficult or challenging sometimes to buy a home where the energy is so bad, so negative, or you don't know why it's that way, and change that energy sometimes, particularly yourself. Again, if you invited somebody like myself or Rosie or Terry Angel or many people on Enlightened World Network or Enlightened World Network, Enlightened Living channel, there are many people who have fantastic energy here, and many of them will be able to assist in helping the energy of a home in that way. So try to, again, pick something, try to choose your locations in a good way. I have the ability to be able to change the energy, in a structure, in a home with people or on the land. And it's not me, obviously, it's my working with spirit that makes that happen, or working in conjunction with other mediums or other light workers that can assist in helping me do that. But do try in some fashion to find a comfortable space where the energy is great, because it's easier to change the aesthetic than it is to change energy for people who don't know how to do that. So kind of a suggestion, hint, to do that. The last one I want to talk about, there were other experiences on the way. I stayed at some beautiful old hotels, and one that I won't mention was the Golden Lamb up in just outside Cincinnati, Ohio, north of Cincinnati, about 30 miles, I think it's mile marker 30 up that direction. Beautiful old hotel, and it's been there. Charles Dickens actually stayed there in like 1842. It was I think it's the oldest still functioning hotel in the state of Ohio. I think it was either started as a log cabin as a stop in 1803 when Ohio became a state, and I think it was operating since 1815 as a tavern and a lodging location. So if you're in that area and you have a chance to stay there, the food at the restaurant was fantastic, and the stay was wonderful. So little plug for them, because I do enjoy finding wonderful places to stay while I'm traveling. On the way back down, I stayed in a little town just south of Sylvester, Georgia, middle of absolutely nowhere in Georgia, a long way off of 75. Again, I think I like to stay at B&Bs because there aren't as many people there. And with COVID, it's one thing. And sometimes places just call out to me. And there was a bed and breakfast that kind of called to me that I needed to stay there. So I went there and spent the night. and they took it off the market as a B&B. They allowed me to stay there. So it was strange because there were no locks on the door anymore because they'd all removed them because they're making a sale of the home. So the room didn't lock, and I'm a little bit of a fanatic about locking my room at night because I think I've told the story before. It may sound odd, but when you see spirit as clearly as I do, it's disconcerting to wake up and see a person standing next to the bed. Because you'd think somebody broke in and now somebody's staring at you, and it's a very strange feeling. So I lock the door at night of the bedroom because I know that if there's an intruder in the house, they will have to break down the door to get in, and I will hear that and wake up. If I wake up and I see somebody there, I know that it's somebody in spirit. So it makes me more comfortable. I know it may sound odd to people, but it makes me more comfortable because I know that they are in spirit and that I don't have to take some type of evasive action that I might have to if they were on this plane. So that's why I do it, and that's why when I stayed at this B&B, it was a little disconcerting that that the doors couldn't be locked because of the sale of the home. But I got there and I had ordered dinner and brought it there and was sitting in the dining room of this beautiful home. And as I was having dinner, I felt something about the house and about the owner, and started to talk about somebody that had passed, and it was giving them some I won't go into it here because I think that's I'd like to get them actually on the program to talk about some of the things that we discussed while we were there. Let's just suffice to say that there were some specifics that gave an indication somebody had recently passed, and she told me that she just had a son that recently passed. And they were moving, they bought the house, 20, 30 years ago. They are now in their 70s. They're tired of working and working in this giant house and doing, and serving people in that fashion in a B&B sense. So they were moving on to do different things. So the house had wonderful, wonderful energy about it. The exception was that when there was a stairway that went up, and they're up in the upper window, when the upper mirror that was at the top of the stairs, you could see a woman who was in kind of a white dress or something that was up there. And you could barely see her because, again, it was way up the stairs. It was, against the wall at the end of the stairway. And you just felt the energy there about this woman. And it turns out that there was a woman who lived there. It only had maybe 3 owners in the last 120 years. And there was the ones who kind of built the main part of this home, had the stairway that came down. She got married there. There's only one daughter, this huge house, and the couple that lived there. And this goes back, and I felt that this was kind of residual energy from what I was feeling. And this was kind of this lovely energy of this home. And as I started to explain more about what I do and how I talk to spirit, the brother of the deceased young man was there, and his wife and the father were all there, and they started to sit down and have dinner. So I kind of started to talk to them about what their son was saying and what they were doing. And I won't go into the son aspect because that was very private to them, and I think that they would probably prefer that I don't go into a recent loss in the family. But what the funny thing was, as I was talking to them, there was a point where all I would see is, I think everybody knows what a Tootsie Roll looks like, but at the Tootsie Roll, you pull the wrapper, and the candy kind of flips around until it comes out of the wrapper itself. And this is what they're showing me in spirit. I have no idea what this means. Again, they show me some strange things sometimes that the living may know, but I have absolutely no clue what this means. I'm like, you're talking about Tootsie Rolls. There's something about the Tootsie Rolls, and this is on, it feels like your husband's side of the family. And I don't know why they're showing me Tootsie Rolls. It does. So you have, I think this is his grandfather, but it's with this Tootsie Roll specifically. And he keeps opening Tootsie Rolls, and as Tootsie Roll after Tootsie Roll after Tootsie Roll that he's unwrapping. and he puts them in his mouth, and then he opens up another one and he puts it in his mouth. Like, this is the strangest thing. And sometimes I hesitate to talk about, well, let's put it this way. I used to hesitate telling people about some of these things that they would show me. Now I know that they're so valuable and that they mean something to people when I start mentioning these things. And I said, I don't know what this Tootsie Roll thing is. And she started laughing. Said, my husband's dad, or my husband's grandfather, he chewed all the time. And he would chew and chewed and spit tobacco. And when he would do that, the family tried to get him to stop that habit. So instead of giving him some tobacco to chew, they would give him Tootsie Rolls and open the Tootsie Roll. So he carried a pocket of Tootsie Rolls around. And when he felt the urge to chew, he'd open a Tootsie Roll, shove it in his mouth, chew on it, and then spit it out. And she told me he never ate the candy, but he would just sit there. It gave him that sensation of chewing, and got that sensation of having that brown liquid in your mouth and spitting it out. So he would walk around the farm, putting one Tootsie Roll in his mouth, chewing it up, spitting it out, and then he would go down a little bit, got the urge again, open up another Tootsie Roll, chew it, and move on. So it's funny. I love sometimes how spirit gives you this information that just affirms that they're around us. And when I told her that, it gave her a good feeling. And her husband had gotten up and had gone back outside to do some more work on the farm. And I just let him know that he feels somebody in this house. And he always, the gentleman who lived there, always felt that it was the previous owner. And I really disabused her of that and said, this is his grandfather that's around him, and that that he's touching him sometimes and that sort of thing. And apparently he's felt that when he's been doing repairs in the house. Sometimes he will remove items, and he'll yell at him, and the item will be returned back on a desktop. He knows that he set down a screwdriver, and he gets up and turns around. The screwdriver is missing, can't find it, curses a little bit, tells him to put the screwdriver back, does something else, turns around, the screwdriver is close to, or he finds the screwdriver again. And he feels being touched. Like when he's doing repairs on things around the house. I said, this is just his grandfather's way of letting him know that he's around, that he feels him, that he loves him. And it's the same thing that's going to happen with their son. Their son is around, and his energy was so palpable in the house and with his family, and the love that was there was special. And I always love that when I encounter that familial energy, particularly between parent and child, or child and parent. It's just an amazing love that it's a bond that is second to none that I can think of, that I've experienced from spirit. Sometimes I've had angelic energy that is fantastic, but that familial energy in that way, there's a special bond of love there that just can't be broken. And for the most part, there are some circumstances where the souls clashed in life and need forgiveness when they cross to either side. But for the most part, that is an amazing energy that I always love to encounter when I work with my clients. So let's see what time it is. And it looks like I don't have a ton of time for questions here, it looks like. Let me pull up my questions and see what's going on. I'm gonna have to pick or choose here. Do I have time to answer them all? Some of these questions I've answered in previous shows, but I will pick a couple of them. The one, what was the scariest spirit that you've ever encountered? Okay, the scariest is a challenging concept because they're scary in a variety of ways. You can have scary in a psychological sense. You can have scary in a physical sense. You can have scary in a spiritual sense. And each one of those carries a different weight to it and how it affects you personally. Personally, I don't like spiritual attacks. I don't like to be attacked in any way. But the physical seems to be actually the easier one to deal with long term, because the effects of when they attack you psychologically. And I've had spirits who try to, they're affecting a family in a negative way. and sometimes they try and drive people crazy. Sometimes they know what frightens them. They know what gets under their skin. They want to be left alone in the house, and they'll do anything that they can to know your fears and things to drive you out to get what they want. That's how they work. Not every spirit, but there are some that do that. And when I encounter that energy, it can be a little disconcerting to me. My spirit guides are very, very good about showing me what I encounter before I encounter it usually. So but when I was a kid, that type of thing would frighten me much more than it does now. So I think when I see entities, it used to terrify me to see some of the things that I would see. Now, not so much. I see it so often and so frequently. The sight, it's when I'm not ready for it sometimes. Like if I'm, stumbling across the room at 2 o'clock in the morning to go to the bathroom or something, and I'm going back to bed, and all of a sudden I run into something that I didn't anticipate being there, and it wakes you up very, very quickly. But again, I know that the door is closed and it's locked, so I know it's spirit, and it calms me down right away, and I just ask, how can I help you? Because I don't allow real negative energy into my house. That doesn't mean, however, that I can't have other types of spirit activity in my home. So most of the time I get spirits for clients that I'm going to see the next day, or my spirit guides, or my husband's spirit guides, or, good energy. I'm able to keep the negative stuff out. However, there are occasions where sometimes when people bring their work home with them, when you do it as a medium, that's not a good thing, particularly if you dealt with something nasty. I have had that happen in the past. I know how to mitigate that now. And maybe we'll do a whole show about that, so that, you're not getting, bringing negative energy or harboring negative energy or have an attachment with you. Maybe we should do a whole show on that. But for the moment, the question was about what scared me. I had a ton of instances when I was a child that scared me to death. Spirits that I didn't understand, spirits that were yelling at me, or I perceived them as yelling at me. They're just trying to talk really loudly to try and get my attention, but just couldn't hear when I was that young. So I think the entities, when I was younger and didn't know, because I didn't know how to stop the negative energies from coming close to me. So that was disconcerting and scary as a child. I think what scares me now as an adult are when I run into situations where, and I won't say it scares me, it's just not great to work with really nasty energy. And I won't go into whether that's demonic or incredibly negative or interdimensional, or what that is, because I've seen all of that type of energy. But working with some of that is just not great. Shadow figures are challenging to work with, but I don't think I get afraid so much anymore, as much as I have a healthy respect for the spirits that I encounter. And I think if I have one note for people out there, is do respect spirit. It's just something. They say disembodied spirit for a reason. If they are still on this plane and haven't crossed, a lot of those souls are the same as they were on this plane. So they just don't have a body anymore. Again, the term disembodied. So imagine, the most negative person at work, or, in your family or something. Imagine them, the same personality, but also their body's taken away. They're still there in that form, because it's just the packaging around the soul that prohibits us from traveling the way that the soul would, or something else. So we do have these earthbound bodies that keep us tethered for the most part, unless you're able to astral project or do other things, or in your dream state, kind of escape that, or have a little escapism through that process. But for the most part, I just want people to understand that when you have healthy respect for the spirits that you're working with, because they are as they were in life, just without a body. So when you encounter them, they're going to have that same personality. It could be negative or positive, or they may have a different perspective on the other side once they pass and understand that they have passed on, that they're no longer on this plane, that they are in spirit. So there's so many variables that it's hard to go into great detail here. But I just want everybody to respect spirit as you would anybody that you would encounter. If you encountered somebody on the street, hopefully you would have enough respect to maybe open a door for somebody, or let them cross in front of you, or do whatever. Have the same respect for a spirit if you find them and encounter them. It can get dicey if you don't, because how would you like it if you disrespected somebody on this plane? It's possible to disrespect the spirit as well, and they may not take it very kindly. And if they have any type of ability or understand what they can do to affect the living, you could have a potential problem on your hands. So just, healthy respect for spirit is a good thing. And particularly with your spirit guides, these are all souls and energies that are trying to help you achieve your highest good and the best life path for yourself. So there's no reason to disrespect those types of spirits, okay, and energies. And with that, I think I will. We didn't get to answer a lot of questions, so I've got one, but I wanted to explain the experiences that I have sometimes when I travel. We've gotten into a lot of these questions, but I haven't talked a lot about my cases recently. I think what I'm going to do for the next show is I have a client that I'm going to go see in 11 days, where they're having, you can hear growling and heavy breathing and tons of orbs. And I'm going to post these on my YouTube channel. So between now and next Tuesday, if you want, I'll actually post them on Facebook as well and on Instagram. So if you follow me there, you can see what they're dealing with. So you'll see the orbs, you'll hear what they're hearing that's scaring them in this family. I'm not going to give out the family name or the location. Let's just say it's just north of Fort Lauderdale for the moment. And we maybe do some filming there. So I may get them on camera next week if they choose to do so, so that I can give more information about what is going on there. But it's a lot of activity, and Rosie Shapiro is going to actually help me with that situation, so that we can help this family hopefully find some peace and tranquility in their home. That's what Rosie does. That's what I do. It's our calling, and it's what we're good at. And Spirit is very good to us to help us in this way. So I thank you all for joining this evening. If you have any questions, again, please feel free to submit them. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have. If you want to contact me, again, you can reach me at Robert Painley at spirit-focus.com. You can reach me at rapainley@gmail.com. If you're interested, again, in attending or having Rosie Shapiro and I come to your home, if you live in the South Florida area, if you're in from Miami to West Palm Beach or so, give us a call, let us know. And you can, again, you reach me even through Enlightened World Network if you like. And we'll set up an appointment to do that, hopefully, while Rosie's in town. Thank you all very, very much. This is always an enjoyable time during the week for me. I love sharing my experiences, and I love answering your questions. So thank you very much for submitting them. And I look forward to seeing you next Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Have a great evening.